Hello, everybody, and welcome to Mindset Monday. And I'm just waiting for a few minutes here before I get started to let a few folks join us in this today's show, which is going to be something I think that's going to be very beneficial to you in talking about wisdom. So just give it a second or two, and then we're going to go ahead and get started. I know with Facebook Live, it takes a little bit of time for it to get notice in other people's feeds to know that we're broadcasting live. So I'm going to give it just a second and then we'll get started. All right. So if you're getting ready to join, that would be great. Just give me a second here and then we're going to get started with today's show. I just want to make sure that people have an opportunity to get on here and join. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Thanks for showing up and being here. And today, what I want to talk about is what does my dad's moccasins have to do with wisdom? Now, these are my dad's moccasins. His name was Grehalva, and he did this beadwork, which is really pretty cool. And one of the things I wanted to understand was what is wisdom? I mean, maybe you're curious just like I was. And I've been fortunate to have traveled to over 28 countries and have met with a number of elders across different cultures. And I always had this question, what is wisdom? And they answered it. And I want to share with you one of the things that I learned, which will explain what this has to do with my dad's moccasins. Now, before I do that, for those of you who don't know me, I'm an author and a speaker and a strategist and a coach and a consultant. And I really help my clients to grow their sales, grow their business, and to grow themselves. And this is one of the things that I do, which is talking about mindsets, because this is what I would attribute to the people I've worked with and my own success is understanding that we have the ability to change and take on challenging things if we change our mindset. And our mindset is made up of where we were born, where we grew up, and where we went to school, where we're educated, the kind of jobs, the kind of people, our relations, and we put all that stuff together, and that creates our belief. And depending on the event, is that we believe that you should behave in a particular way and that we should behave in a particular way. So what I want to offer you is a opportunity to take a look at that mindset and maybe make a change, maybe do something a little differently. And that's my goal for these Mindset Monday shows. So getting back to the point, which is what does this have to do with wisdom, my dad's moccasin? Well, you may have heard the quote or the term, walk a mile in his moccasins. And that's often contributed or attributed to many different Indian tribes. But here's something you probably didn't know, is that it was actually written by a woman, and it's a poem, and it was written in 1895, and her name was Mary T. Lathrop. So I want to share this poem with you, and then I'll come back and the moccasin will make a lot more sense. Pray. Don't find fault with the man that limps or stumbles along the road, unless you have worn the moccasins he wears, or stumbled beneath the same load. There may be tears in his soles that hurt, though hidden away from view, the burden he bears placed on your back may cause you to stumble and fall too. Don't sneer at the man who is down today unless you have felt the same blow that caused his fall or felt the shame that only the fallen know. You may be strong, but still the blows that were his, unknown to you in the same way, may cause you to stagger and fall too. Don't be too harsh with the man that sins that were his, unknown to you in the same way, but may cause you to stagger and fall too. Don't be too harsh with a man that sins, or pelt him with words or stone or disdain, unless you are sure you have no sins of your own, and it's only wisdom and love that your heart contains. For you know, if the tempter's voice should whisper as soft to you as it did to him when he went astray, it might cause you to falter too. Just walk a mile and in his moccasins before you abuse, criticize, and accuse. If just for 1 hour you could find a way to see through his eyes instead of your own muse, I believe you'd be surprised to see that you've been blind and narrow-minded, even unkind. There are people on reservations and in the ghettos who have so little hope and too much worry on their minds. Brother, but for the grace of God go you and I, just for a moment, slip into his mind and traditions and see the world through his spirit and eyes before you cast a stone or falsely judge his conditions. Remember to walk a mile in his moccasins, and remember the lessons of humanity taught to you by your elders. We will be known forever by the tracks we leave in other people's lives, our kindness and generosity. Take the time to walk a mile in his moccasins. Now that's a pretty powerful poem, but to put it all together so that you can understand what I was taught is that wisdom is the ability to see a particular situation or event from multiple perspectives. It's in essence walking in the other person's moccasins, in the other person's shoes. But it goes beyond just two perspectives. It can be to 3 to 4 or 5 or 6 or even more. And that's what gives us the power of understanding someone else to communicate effectively to one another. I mean, after all, we were taught to read and to write and to talk, but we weren't really taught how to communicate. And that's what you and I do most of the day, no matter what it is that we're involved in for our career or our job or whatever we do during the daytime. Now, I want to share with you a couple techniques that will help you understand that. So if you have a pen or a pencil, then it's going to be good so that you can write down the answer to the question I have for you. So if you got one, go grab it. If you don't, just kind of come back and replay this, and then you can watch this and follow through. So here's the question: is that if I were to ask you the 3 things that make you successful, that have caused your success in whatever it is that you do during the daytime, whether it's being a parent or it's going, you have your job or you're going to school, it doesn't matter. Whatever it is that you do during the daytime, is what are the 3 things that you do or have done that make you successful? Just the top 3. So think about it for just 1 second and let the pen or pencil do the work and just write the 3. There's no right or wrong here. It's whatever you write down. Just the top 3. Now for a moment, imagine if someone were to come to you that's in a like career, that does the same thing that you do, and they ask you this question: I'd like for you to mentor or to help me, and what are the top 3 things do I have to do? What do I need? The top 3 things, what do I need to do in order to be successful? What are the top 3 things that I would have to do in order to be successful? So think about that for a second and go ahead and write it down. Again, just let the pen scribble down what it is, and don't worry about it. I mean, it's just for you. Now, again, if I'm going too quick, you can always come back and do this because it's important. Now, most of you, when you look down at what you've written, the top 3 things that you have done for yourself in order to be successful, if you look at what you wrote down, if someone else was to ask you that question, what could I do to be successful? My guess is that what you wrote down is pretty close, of not verbatim, to the same things that you do for yourself. Not unnatural, it's not a big deal. Most of the population answers a question that way. is that if I said, what do I need to do? I need to be self-motivated. So what do you need to do? You need to be self-motivated. So what that's saying is that I'm viewing the world through my eyes. Is I'm making decisions and judgments about you based on what I believe you should be doing. I mean, have you ever heard this term? If I were you, this is what I would do. Maybe you've said it yourself, or maybe someone has said that to you. Well, here's the thing. It's a lie. Because if I were you, I would do it exactly the way you did it. Because I went to your school, I had your parents, I hung out with the people that you hung out with, and the job you're doing and what you've learned. I would put all those things together, and that's how I would accomplish it. So what I'm really saying is that if I were you, I would do it the way I do it. You see, again, I'm looking at situations from my eyes, and it takes away for the opportunity to really understand or engage what it is that you're saying to me. Now, think about it in a couple different ways. One is in sales. If you're in sales, is that you believe, most salespeople I work with or organizations believe they have the value and they're going to provide the value to a client or a customer. Well, that's not true. It's the customer or the client that has a perception of what that value is. If I think I have the value, I'm trying to sell that to you. It's really talking about those folks who are in pursuit. I have a solution. I'm in pursuit of someone who has this problem. Is that person has the value. So it really becomes important from a sales perspective for the ability to be able to look at a problem or a situation, not from your eyes, but from their eyes. But consider this, as I tell many of the organizations and sales folks I deal with, is that your client or customer doesn't even need your stuff. They have no purpose for it. But the reason they may become a customer or a client is because they will use that to make their customer or clients' lives better. Now, just think about it. If you're selling software for a hospital, if you say, so you need my software to make your hospital be more efficient, they don't need it. They need it for their patients and their employees and the physicians and clinicians and so on. I mean, just think about it, is that your client doesn't necessarily and most often doesn't need it. They're using it because of something they're going to use for someone else. So again, what is that person's perspective? What are they looking at your customer to be able to solve that you might be able to help that customer with that perceived value for their customer to help them, and it goes on and on. So it's really beneficial if you could go into a meeting with a client with the idea of not looking at a situation of, well, if I were you, this is how I would do it, but rather with an open mind to be able to literally have the ability to get into their moccasins, sit in their chair, to be in their shoes and view this viewpoint from their perspective. Now I'll give you another. Is in marketing, I'm working with some clients and their strategy, and we're looking at their websites and their messaging, and we're beginning to, with a few of them, we're changing that. We're updating them, or we're launching new ones. And the first thing is that what clients and customers have or want to do is they start looking at their own website saying, well, that's not the way I would do it. That's not how I would search. That's not what I would be looking for. And I said, quite frankly, I don't care, because you're not going to buy your own stuff. What we're really looking at this is from the eyes or viewpoint from your potential customers or clients or your existing customer and clients. And then looking at all the different viewpoints where people might be coming. What's their job title? What's their name? What are they doing when they come to your website? Because they don't start at the beginning and work their way through. It depends on what value or problem they're wanting to solve is where they'll come into that website. So it's important to be looking at what their eyes are looking at, not yours, but it's just a natural tendency. Now think a situation in your own relationships, whether it be with boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, spouse, partner, significant other, is often is the other person is saying, well, you're not listening to me, or you're not seeing the situation I do. You're just not feeling it the same way I am. And you're saying, yeah, of course I do. Well, that's a lie too, isn't it? No, you're not. Again, it's looking through your viewpoint, or with children, and they go, or peers or employees. It goes on and on and on. So what can you do? Well, there's a technique really, which is understanding that you're looking at situations through your eyes, through first person. You've got all the charge, you've got all the emotions with it. And the other person, whoever it might be, is looking at this situation or event from their eyes. And they have their charge and are emotional. So the idea here is to metaphorically have the ability to be able to float out of your body for a moment and kind of land in theirs and really taking on their persona to understand what it is they're attempting to say to you. One of my mentors and teachers told me, Rich, it's like having an invisible laser beam between my umbilical cord to theirs. You know, there's a button that we're just connected so deeply that I'm listening to this event as if I were them. And that's a state you want to be able to get in. But there's one more important piece to this. And the important piece is to remove this emotional charge, if you will. And it's the ability to look at this situation as an observer, as the third person, who doesn't have any skin in the game, is really trying to understand what's being said from these two parties. You see, if you can metaphorically see yourself moving outside of your body and actually being over to the side, watching you and the other person engage in this conversation and really trying to understand what are they really trying to say to you that this other person, being me, is not listening. I'm not hearing it. I'm not understanding it. And really trying to stay without an emotional charge, it's disassociation, if you will, is without being emotionally charged, being able to watch what's happening and then come up with a way that we might be able to negotiate a solution or an answer and then getting back into my body. Now, I know it sounds like, you know, magic dust or something, but it really isn't. You know, it takes a little time to learn this technique, but not all that much. And a good way to start is think of a situation where you wish you had learned this, that you had this ability to understand this technique. And go back and reframe that situation. Go back and see that situation and hear the words and the feelings and attempt it there. What would it have happened if you were looking at it from their perspective and then from the observer position and being able to try to understand and then understanding what each other are saying to one another so that you can negotiate an answer that would work for both of you. Now, you could think about something that's coming up, like the sales meeting. If you do have a meeting with a customer or client, you can, in your mind's eye, just kind of rehearse this and get some idea of what you might be able to do to reframe these things, to come in there and be able to look at it from different perspectives. And that will provide you with a bunch of wisdom, because now you're not looking at the event from your eyes. You're now understanding it from their eyes. And moreover, you're really engaging it from both sides, trying to understand what's being said there. So I hope this information has been helpful for you. And I'm sure that you'll be able to take this in your daily interactions, because the folks I've worked with and given this data and this technique, they find it to be very useful. But for some of you, until you try it, then you'll understand and know it. But at any rate, what I want to leave you is with this. When you change your mindset, you will change your results. So once again, have a great week. Make sure to subscribe, because every so often I'll come on and talk about something that's not scheduled that hopefully is going to be useful for you. Have a terrific week, and I will be seeing you soon.